Alright, hey guys, today I'm going to go over the README for the Apostasy mod list for Wabbajack, and I'm going to have a visual guide on how to install it. I apologize if there are issues with my audio in advance. I've tried to tweak it, but I have a pretty bad mic setup at the moment, so hopefully it's not too distracting. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we're just going to go to the README because we're going to go through this basically step by step. You can read along with this video or you can just watch this video. The point of this video being made is that it should just be an easy to follow along visual guide, so that people who don't want to read have this to refer to, and it will hopefully cut down some of the support burden that I have. But yeah, so this README will be linked in the description as well. But it will also open automatically when you first try to install the list through Wabbajack. But for now, we're just going to go through step by step. Open the next page for later because I'll need it. And yeah, so the first thing we're going to go on through the README. I'm not going to talk about the system requirements. These should remain relatively constant for the lifespan of the list. If they're not, then they'll be updated. So yeah, so the first thing we're going to do in the installation section is we need to install the Microsoft Visual C++ and .NET. And so there are three files that we need, and they're all linked right here. So if you click these links, it will open them up in new windows. The Visual Studio C++ and the .NET 6.0 are direct download links because those are already done. They don't need to be updated. The links, at least they don't need to be updated right now, so they'll just take you to wherever, and they will show up in your download folder, um, like so. And then for the 8.8 or for the 8.0 runtime, today is the 28th of August. The last update was 8.0.8 on the 15th of August. So we'll go to the .NET website that you can click here, and we'll open in a new tab. And we're going to scroll down to .NET Desktop Runtime, and you'll want this x64 version. So just click that, it'll bring it up in a new window, and it will start downloading it. And so now that we have that done, we're going to go to our download folder, and we're going to want to just run these. For Visual C++ redistributable, if you already have it installed, just hit repair. And then for the .NET ones, it will look like this. You'll just hit install, it will pop up an admin window, just install it. And then once you're done with this, just restart your computer. Now after you've restarted your computer, we can move on to the second step, which is to set the page file. So what we're going to do to set a page file is we're going to press the Windows key and then R. And then we're going to type in this sysdm.cpl space comma 3. And we'll hit OK. So that's sysdm.cpl space comma 3. And this will bring you to the third page of your system properties. And under here, you'll see the performance box. So you'll see this, you'll click settings, go to advanced, virtual memory. So this is a page file. And so to be quite simple, what a page file is it's just an amount of physical storage space that Windows sets aside and treats as if it's RAM. And your page file is obviously not going to be as fast or as efficient as the actual RAM in your computer, but when you run out of RAM, Windows will start spilling over into the page file to prevent crashing, running out of system memory, what have you. With Skyrim, this is kind of important because the engine is old, the game is old, and it will dip in the page file unnecessarily even if you have remaining RAM. So we're going to click change here. And yours will probably, if you've never set a page file before, yours will probably look something like this, where it's checked at the top and it says system managed size down here. So we're going to untick this, and we're going to click on custom size. And then in these two boxes, we're going to type this number, 40960. So 40,960. This equates to 40 gigabytes. And you're just going to want to put this in the initial size and the maximum size. Hit set, hit OK. It will probably ask you to apply, so hit that, then hit OK. It might ask you here again. If it asks you, hit apply and then hit OK. After you do this, restart your PC again, and we will continue. Now, if you're using a NVIDIA card, you will be able to set a shader cache. So to do that, right-click on your desktop, NVIDIA control panel. Once it opens, go to Manage 3D Settings right here on the side, and scroll down, and you'll see shader cache size. And we recommend that you set this to 10 gigabytes. 10 gigabytes is more than enough. It increases the stability of the game. Strongly recommended if you have an NVIDIA card. So you'll basically be using about 50 gigabytes on your OS drive, most likely, for this shader cache size, or for the shader cache and the page file. So that's just space that is set aside by the system to act as a buffer. It will prevent issues. It will prevent crashing. Strongly recommended. You'll click this, and then down here will ask you if you want to apply. So let me just change it and then change it back so you see what I mean. Just hit apply. After this step, you don't need to restart. You can just exit out of that. And the next stuff we're going to want to do before we get to Wabbajack itself is the Steam setup. So hopefully you've had the game installed and you've ran it before. If you haven't, make sure that the game is on the most up-to-date version. That version is currently 1.6.1170. If you go to installed files, or if you go to updates, it will look something like this, with build ID, the app ID. This app ID is for Skyrim, and this build ID, if I remember correctly, is the current build. So that would be the current version that's most up to date on Steam, which is 1170. And so what we want to do first is we want to make sure our language is set to English, because Wabbajack can only support one version of the game, and we support the English version of the game. That's just how it is. So just set that to English. And if you have your own modded version of Skyrim, what you might want to do is you probably want to make a copy of your Skyrim folder, and just name it something else in here, so that you have a clean Skyrim install. Because the issue is that if you have your own stuff in the root directory, it will mess with the installed list. Like when Wabbajack is trying to install it, it can cause issues, and you might not be running the most up-to-date stuff, which will cause issues. And you might have the wrong versions of the CC plugins, which will cause issues. So once we have that, go into your data. If you have the anniversary edition update, like I do, it's fine. It won't affect anything for Apostasy, because Apostasy doesn't use it currently. So just don't worry about that. Your folder will probably look something like this. You might not have this scripts folder because this is part of the creation kit. But you should have the rest of this, the resource pack, the CC stuff, Dawnguard, Dragonborn, Hearthfire, Marketplace textures, and then all of the base game BSAs and ESMs. And what you want is you want to delete these. If you haven't installed the Creation Club content in-game before, you want to delete these Curios files after you verify on Steam. So go to Steam, you go to Installed Files, and you click Verify the game files. And then once you finish that, you want to delete these Curios files in your Skyrim install. And you want to play the game and launch it like you normally would. And once you're in game, you're going to want to navigate to the Creations tab of the main menu. You're going to want to go down to the Search button. You're going to want to search for Rare Curios, and you're going to want to click the card that says Rare Curios and download it. While you're downloading it, you don't want to alt tab. If you alt tab, it will break the download and you'll have to do it again. So just don't alt tab. It'll take a couple minutes at most, I promise. And after that, we can finally install Wabbajack. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to go to the Wabbajack website, wabbajack.org, and click download. And it will download this exe file, which I already have downloaded. So we'll go to our downloads folder, and we see this wabbajack.exe. And if we try to just run this out of here, I will show you, you'll get an error like this. You can't run Wabbajack out of specific Windows files. The README goes into more detail about this, but it's not really important. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to go to our File Explorer, and we're going to want to pick a drive. So I already have it set up on my F drive, but we're going to want to go to like our drive, and we're going to make a new folder, name it Wabbajack or whatever, and then drag the exe into that. And so once we have that done, you want to run the exe. And the first thing we'll do is we'll check for updates, and then it will install whatever version is most recent. Wabbajack will keep up to 3 versions before it purges one. So every time it updates, it will keep the last one. And so you can run Wabbajack either from this exe, which will always check for updates, or you can go into the version-specific folder, scroll down towards the bottom, and you'll find wabbajack.exe, and you can run that specific executable, and that will just run the specific version. But we're going to want to run Wabbajack, and once we have it open like this, go to Settings, and make sure you're logged in with Nexus mods. If you've never used Wabbajack before, you'll be logged out, so make sure you're logged in. You don't need to be logged into Vector Plexus for the list, and you don't have to worry about Lover's Lab stuff or anything like that. So once you've logged into Nexus, go back, browse for mod list, and by default, yours will probably look something like this. Apostasy is a featured list now, so you don't have to check the Show Unofficial Lists button, but you might want to for other lists. But we can just leave it ticked off for now. If Apostasy isn't at the top of it, like it is for me here, then in the search bar, you can just type Apostasy, and it will show up. And down here, there will be a button that looks like this to download the modlist file. I already have it downloaded, so we're just going to click play, and it will bring us to this. Now, once you click that, it'll open the README in another tab here. We're just going to close that. Alternatively to downloading through Wabbajack, you can also download from the Nexus page. So on the Nexus page under Files, on the main file, you should see the apostasy.wabbajack file. And the Wabbajack app will usually be more up to date, but I try to keep them up to date the same. So if it's the day of an update, the Nexus page might be one version behind while it's updating, just because the way that it works is I have to push to the app first, and then I can upload to Nexus. But if you want to make sure the Nexus page is the correct version, on the Wabbajack app, you can see version 1.0.0.14, and on the Nexus page, 1.0.14. Now, if you didn't want to go to the Wabbajack app to check that, you can also go to the changelog, which is linked here on the Nexus page, and you can see what the most recent version was. And so the most recent version was 1.0.14. So we know this is the right version. And so if you download it manually, then you'll get a file like this, apostasy.wabbajack. It will be in a like 7-zip file, but you'll just extract that. And then you can just run that. And this is going to update Wabbajack because it's old, but you can run that and it will just bring up this window the same way. So now you want to choose your installation location. So your modless install location. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to our PC. I'm going to go to my F drive because that's my NVMe. Make a new folder. Call it Apostasy. I already actually have that folder. So go to my Apostasy folder, select that folder, and now this is where the list is going to install. By default, the resource download location, which is just like all of the downloads for the list, will be set as your install folder / downloads. If you are playing multiple mod lists through Wabbajack, or you want to put the downloads on a different drive, then you can move this folder elsewhere. If you want to delete the downloads after you're finished installing, you can. The only issues that will cause is when reinstalling the list or like updating the list, it can cause some issues. So if we wanted to put this on a different drive, because perhaps we don't have enough space on our main drive, then select the target path, those 3 dots, go back to this PC, and let's say I just wanted to put downloads on my D drive. I go to my D drive, and you can just make a folder. You call it something like downloads. I already have it here. Click on this folder, select the folder, and with something like this, now your mod list will be installed to your F drive in a folder called Apostasy, and your downloads will be installed to your D drive in a folder called downloads. This way, if you are installing a different list, perhaps you can keep the same download location but put the install location somewhere else. It's a good way of like conserving downloads, saving bandwidth. People who play a lot of lists tend to do this, so it's not a bad idea. You don't have to tick this box. If you're updating the list, then you should tick this box, but otherwise you don't. You can just click play, and it will run as normal. And so then, a couple problems that you might run into in the install. The first one that you might have is you might be failing on non-Nexus files. So if the files you're failing on are like Google Drive or Mega or some Patreon files, they're the ones down here on the README. If you want to find how to get to that, then you can just scroll to the table of contents, problems with install, problematic files, right here. And so you just open these in like a new tab. This is like a Google Drive link. You can download this. And if that's like a file you're failing on, you'll have it in your downloads here. And this is the downloads. This is where we set our downloads folder. You can just drop the zip into your downloads folder. And that's all you have to do. The next time you run Wabbajack, after you fail, it will pick up where it left off. And it shouldn't fail on that download again. If it does, then just post your Wabbajack log in support and we'll be able to help you. Otherwise, that should do it. Don't unpack this zip, okay? Just leave it the way it is when you download it and put it in the folder. If you unpack it, it will cause issues because Wabbajack needs it in the zipped form. Alternatively, the other main issues you might run into are failing on Curios files. Go back to when we did the Steam setup section, or SKYRIM _default.ini not matching. That means that you didn't set your game to English. So go back to Steam, set your game to English. Make sure you run the game once, at least through Steam. And then, yeah, that should really be it. At that point, you should have the list installed. You can launch the mod organizer too. If you're looking for where that is normally, then you can go to your Apostasy folder. You'll have a mod organizer.exe in here. So go to my F drive, go to my Apostasy folder. My install is named differently from the example folder I had. Mod organizer.exe, and you can just run it through there. The first thing we want to do once we finish installing is set our CPU Affinity. The steps for this are on the README, but I will show you here. You want to click these puzzle keys, like the puzzle icon up here. Set CPU Affinity. Mine's already set, so it will say your current CPU Affinity is this. Do you want to disable it by setting the value to 0? So if the value is set to 0, that means it's disabled. So I'm just going to click OK. Click it again. And yours should look like this. It should say CPU Affinity not set 0. And then some other stuff. Do you want to change your CPU Affinity? Just click OK. Your CPU Affinity is now set. If you want to read more about what that does, it's in the README. I'm not going to talk about it right now. The other thing you might want to do, if you want to modify the list, If it didn't give you the prompt on launch, then you can click these tool buttons up here, workarounds, or general. Wait, where is it? Sorry, Nexus. I forget. They move this constantly. You want to go to settings, Nexus, associate, download with manager links. And that way, whenever you're on Nexus and you click something like download to Nexus Mod Manager, it will download to MO2. There are some optional files at the bottom here. Keybinds and gamepad, performance optimizations. This stuff is all talked about on the config page of the README. I might discuss this in a different video, but for now I'm going to skip it. If you're curious what the keybinds are, that's on the README for keyboard and gamepad, but make sure that you follow the gamepad setup because by default gamepad isn't enabled or is not. It doesn't provide the same keybinds because of the way the control map works, and we can't offer both keyboard and gamepad at the same time. It's really complicated. But yeah, you can just read the config page about that here. And yeah, after that point, we should be able to play the game. We've set our CPU affinity, we've installed all our dependencies, we've set our Pagefile, we've set our shader cache. The list is installed. So we're going to click play. And when we click play, it will do this, launching VFS, and it will pop up this unlock box. Don't click this. This will pop over it, but if you click off of that, you'll see this unlock box. What you don't want to do is you don't want to click this. If you click this, it will cause issues. It will break your game. Just don't click this. Seriously, it will just break your game. I could show you, but it causes issues that I don't want to deal with right now. So we're just going to end that task manager. And yeah, don't click the unlock. That should be all. If you guys have any more questions, you can direct them to me somewhere, I'm sure. Otherwise, I hope this guide was informative and perhaps helped you have a visual learning tool, because I know reading a lot of text can be very unfun. But yeah, have a good one.